June 19, 1923. The Age, Melbourne, Australia. The Power of Suggestion. Women are still the world's invalids. From that tradition, emancipation has not yet freed them. To women, therefore, the new gospel of hope contained in the principles of suggestion should hold a promise and an appeal to which men may for some time longer turn a deaf ear. It has frequently been said that though surgical skill has advanced to hitherto undreamed of heights, medical treatment has remained largely in the region of guesswork, with the result that hapless patients, feeling that the physician has little or no light to guide him, are more and more willing to place themselves in the hands of the surgeon, who is at least able to use his eyes in determining the condition of the organ which he is treating. Within recent years, however, medical science has been reinforced by a new agency. The most enlightened physicians recognize the power of suggestion and are gladly making use of it, although they are greatly hampered by the extravagant claims of quacks and others who profess to be able to achieve results which are contrary to human experience and to our knowledge of natural laws. There may be certain peculiarly constituted minds which can derive comfort from the placid person who tells them that the inflammation which has swollen their jaws to the size of a football exists only in their imagination, and can therefore be cured by the same agency which has produced it. A normally minded human being would probably lay violent hands upon the fiend who was thus guilty of adding insult to an injury already grievous to be borne, while it is upon record that the same placid apostle of the non-existent has been known to take his own toothache to the dentist. Suggestion does not pretend to work miracles. Its power lies in the fact that it is the supreme teacher of self-reliance and self-help. It is the supreme guide to a sane and healthy obedience to nature's laws. There are many who approach suggestion as they approach drugs, in the belief that in there lies a form which can do for them what they are too lazy to do for themselves, that by its use they may be able to avert the consequences of their own acts. The one force is as powerful to act in this way as the other. If you habitually eat indigestible food, neither therapeutic nor psychotherapeutic forces can save your overloaded organs from the injury which you yourself have deliberately inflicted upon them. If you live without fresh air, exercise, and habits of cleanliness, no outside agency which you may call upon in your self-induced extremity can restore you to the health which you yourself have destroyed. Considerable confusion exists in the public mind as to the meaning of the term suggestion. By some it is confused with hypnotism. By very many it is believed to imply, if not actual hypnotic influence, at least a partial submission of the will to that of another person. Both of these ideas are in direct opposition to the facts. Suggestion, properly used, is the guiding hand which points the way to autosuggestion, and this is the force by which each human may obtain control over his or her own imagination and acquire the power to make use of the unexplained forces which are latent in all of us. Unfortunately, wrong suggestion is much more common than right suggestion, and is even more potent. In this discussion, it cannot be said that the medical faculty is entirely free from blame. How many instances has each of us known of persons who felt a little off color, but struggled on well enough till a fatal day when they paid a visit to their doctor. From him, they have received an authoritative and sympathetic assurance that they were in a serious and sorry plight. You poor soul, I really don't know how you have kept up so long. It is only your wonderful spirit that has done it. Now you just go home and go straight to bed. The same woman who went forth sustained by a good fighting spirit succumbs at once under the suggestion that her battle is unequally waged against forces which are too strong for her, and she crawls home a miserable wreck. Sometimes one diagnosis accompanies this comforting pronouncement, sometimes another. If a particular organ is selected to bear the blame, the heart is the favorite culprit. The liver, for instance, is a low sort of organ, but no one minds owning to a weak heart, and besides, the symptoms are happily vague. Often, however, a patient is sent home with the suggestion that she is on the verge of a nervous breakdown, with the result that instead of being pulled back from that unpleasant position, she is straightway propelled into the deepest middle of a slough of despond. The more enlightened modern physician, having first ascertained the amount of actual physical disease which exists, will inspire his patient to put up a good fight on her own behalf. Instead of assuring her that she is a martyr, he will show her where she has been mistaken in the conduct of her daily life, and while he may prescribe a drug for her specific malady, he will lay the most stress on the fact that, after all, the origin of her trouble is a simple thing, and that its cure lies chiefly in her own hands. Instead of sending her home with her heart in her boots to lie in bed and await the miraculous action of drugs, he will fill her with a hopeful spirit of courage and good sense, and a conviction that if she refuses to take alarm at uncomfortable symptoms, and at the same time gives up whatever in her daily life has been contrary to natural laws, her recovery is sure. It is an interesting speculation to consider how far women have been the victims, through suggestion, of the time-honored tradition of physical fragility, which has been laid upon them like a curse from generation to generation. Not only has it not been considered natural or desirable for women to be healthy and robust, but there has been a stigma attached to an appearance of sound bodily health. Great, strong creature, looks just like a dairymaid. The pallid, fragile, anemic critic of good health is not so entirely out of date as might be supposed. Women have not yet established a tradition of health which is at all comparable with that held by men. The man who likes to be told that he looks delicate is an abnormality. The woman who really enjoys hearing that she looks as if she had never had a day's illness in her life is nearly as strange a creature. And yet that constant suggestion that ill health, if not actually desirable, was still a natural state for woman, is probably responsible for untold suffering. For the malady which is induced by a mental state is quite as distressing as one which owes its origin to a physical lesion, and is infinitely more difficult to cure, because, by its very nature, it has laid an axe at the root of the healthy growth which should spring up to cast it out. The worst enemies of suggestion are those who claim too much for it. Common sense is revolted by stories of the instantaneous cure of cases of organic diseases. It is true that suggestion can do a great deal, even in cases of organic diseases, by helping to build up a healthy resistance. And probably most of us have known indomitable spirits who have triumphed over the slow, consuming torments of physical disease, refusing to allow their light to be put out before its time. But the disease has been victorious in the end. A great number of the cases which have been claimed as examples of the cure of organic diseases by some occult power have been those of paralytics. Speaking of them, that cheerful, sane, and healthy apostle of autosuggestion, Coué, says, "There are quite a number of cases of paralysis which are due only to the patient's belief in his or her inability to use the affected limb or member. They can all be cured easily, certainly. Although the lesion which originally produced the paralysis has healed already, the patient has lost the habit of using his limb and still thinks that he is unable to do so. In this case, the person, whoever he may be, and whatever power he may call upon, who succeeds in implanting in the patient's mind the conviction that he can use his limb, has supplied the incentive to try to do so, which was the only thing lacking. But he has used in the process no force except a simple natural law. It is the constant desire of human nature to find excuses for its weaknesses that makes so difficult any general acceptance of the belief that our health lies largely in our own hands. It is easier to give in than to fight. It is easier, especially for women, to look to others for help and support than to supply it from the depths of their own being. Nevertheless, it is a comforting thought that we can find help within ourselves. There is a solid satisfaction in knowing that we can do for ourselves what others cannot do for us. There is inspiration in the knowledge that we can build up for ourselves an enduring structure of health of mind and body, which the storms and stresses of life cannot destroy.